Michael Bruce Ross was an American serial killer active in the 1980s, known for his brutal crimes that shocked the nation and eventually led to his execution in 2005. His story is a haunting account of a troubled man whose violent impulses ultimately led to the death of 8 young women across the Northeastern United States. Michael Bruce Ross was born on July 26, 1959, in Putnam, Connecticut. His childhood, despite being marked by a rural upbringing, was marred by deep dysfunction and abuse. Growing up on a chicken farm, he suffered under an abusive mother and an emotionally distant father. These early traumas left a profound impact on Ross, contributing to the psychological disturbances that would shape his later life. Despite his troubled upbringing, Ross showed promise academically. He was intelligent and driven, eventually earning a scholarship to Cornell University, where he studied agricultural economics. During this time, he developed a deep fascination with psychology, particularly with the study of criminal minds. However, beneath this academic success, dark urges were taking root, urges that he would later claim had been present since his teenage years. Between 1981 and 1984, Michael Bruce Ross committed a series of brutal rapes and murders in Connecticut and New York. His victims, mostly young women between the ages of 14 and 25, were often hitchhikers or women he encountered by chance. Ross would abduct them, assault them, and then strangle them, leaving their bodies in remote, wooded areas. His cold, calculated approach made him difficult to catch initially, as he targeted women who were often already vulnerable or on the fringes of society. The first known victim was 25-year-old Zung Nok Tu, a student at Cornell University, whom he killed in May 1981. Over the next 3 years, he continued his spree, targeting young women such as 17-year-old Robin Stavinsky and 14-year-old Wendy Barabalt. The murders created a climate of fear in the areas he targeted, as families and law enforcement struggled to comprehend who could be behind such senseless violence. In 1984, Ross's killing spree came to an end when he was arrested after attempting to abduct a young woman who managed to escape and alert the authorities. During his interrogation, Ross initially denied the murders but eventually confessed in detail to 8 killings. His confessions were chillingly methodical, displaying a complete lack of empathy for his victims. He provided information that only the killer would know, which helped authorities link him to the unsolved cases. The psychological evaluations conducted during his trial revealed that Ross was suffering from a variety of mental health issues, including obsessive-compulsive disorder and a sexual sadness disorder. Despite these findings, he was found competent to stand trial, and in 1987, he was convicted of 4 murders in Connecticut and sentenced to death. After his conviction, Ross's case became a focal point in the debate over the death penalty in the United States, particularly in Connecticut, where capital punishment had not been carried out in decades. For years, he fought his death sentence through various appeals and petitions, while his legal team argued that his mental health issues should preclude his execution. Yet Ross himself often wavered in his stance, at times expressing a desire to waive his appeals and accept his death sentence, stating that he deserved to die for what he had done. His dual personality, as both a cold-blooded killer and a seemingly repentant man facing his crimes, complicated public perception. Some saw him as a monster who should face the ultimate punishment, while others believed that his mental illness made execution unjust. After years of legal back and forth, Michael Bruce Ross's execution was carried out on May 13, 2005, at the Osborne Correctional Institution in Connecticut. He was the first person to be executed in Connecticut in over 40 years and the first since the death penalty was reinstated in the United States in 1976. He was executed by lethal injection, and in his final statement, Ross expressed remorse for his actions, apologizing to the families of his victims. His execution marked a significant moment in the history of capital punishment in the Northeastern United States, stirring debates about the ethics of the death penalty, especially in cases involving mental illness. The victims' families had mixed reactions, with some finding closure in his death, while others continued to struggle with the trauma of their loss. Michael Bruce Ross's story serves as a reminder of the complex interplay between mental illness, childhood trauma, and violent behavior. It highlights the challenges faced by the legal system in balancing justice and compassion when dealing with individuals whose actions are shaped by deep psychological disturbances. Ultimately, Ross's life and crimes left a lasting scar on the communities he terrorized and reignited discussions on the morality of the death penalty, particularly for those whose criminal behavior may have roots in their own suffering. Ross's legacy is a dark one, defined by the pain and suffering he caused, but it also serves as a case study for criminologists and psychologists seeking to understand the minds of serial offenders. His story remains a disturbing chapter in America's criminal history, one that evokes both horror and a deep sense of tragedy for all those involved.